Go, Q. Attaboy, G-Money.
Hi, it's Tom Sells Jr. back with On the JON. I think most of our teams have played 8 games. Now they got 2 to go. Who's going to make the playoffs? But hey, let's get on the JON.
All right, guys, my first point this week is the games of the week. Let's give some MUS Owls a big, huge victory over Christmas in our travel game, 31-9. ECS over North Point, 33-21. Another key region game in that one. And then let's give some Tipton Rosemart some love, 34-0 over Harding. All right, my players of the game this week for the point is Hunter Barnes, 33 carries for 149 for MUS. Tyler Bird, a punt return, special teams. Hey, a key player in that game. You might not want to keep to him in the future references, but Tyler Bird, congratulations on that punt return. Benedict Brady, 4 touchdown passes for ECS. And then ECS also had 508 yards of offense against North Point last week. Let's give Tucker White 23 carries for 155. Jalen Greenwood, 13 carries for 132. And then MUS defense holding down Hayden to less than 100 yards in that one.
A lot of great plays and players from ECS. And ECS ran into some great players this year from Lausanne. The Lynx have been powerful this year. They've been a thorn in the side of our Power 10. Coach Kevin Locastro and his squad are putting together a great season. So John went down to Memphis and caught up with Coach and found out what's making his team so successful. And they got a couple big games coming up towards the end of the year before they make a playoff run.
All right, I have another episode this week of On the JON with Coach Kevin Locastro of the Lausanne Lynx. Coach, thanks for your time.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks, Jonathan.
No problem, man. Let's just talk about it. I know you're off to a hot start with the undefeated record. And I know some people don't like talking about it because we want to jinx them, but just talk about your hot start so far in the season.
Well, we've played some really good football at times, and we've had moments and times when we hadn't played very good. Particularly, I don't think we played very good the last 2 weeks offensively. Just too many mistakes. And we seem to be, the last couple of weeks, finding ways to hurt ourselves. I don't think it's necessarily what, the teams that we're playing schematically are doing against us. Just too many self-inflicted wounds on that side of the ball. But fortunately, we're playing really, really good on the defensive side of the ball we've got 7 games. One of them was a COVID win the first week versus Southwind. So in 6 games, we've got 4 shutouts on defense. So we're playing really well on that side of the ball, and we just got to get more consistent offensively if we're going to kind of make a run deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, and the Bartlett game put y'all, I think, like when Bartlett, I know Bartlett is a so-so team this year, but when y'all shut out that offense to 0 points at Bartlett, that was a good statement win as well.
I actually think Bartlett's got a pretty good football team. We probably played the best quarter of football
in the first
since I've been at Lausanne. Maybe I'm just trying to think back. We've had some good teams, obviously, and we had Eric and that group. The 16, 17, 18 teams, we had some really good games and quarters and so forth. But in the last 2 or 3 years, I thought the Bartlett first quarter was probably one of the best first quarters we've ever played on both sides of the football. And we just got to get back to doing that. If we play a team that's better than us and we go out, we get whipped, that's one thing. But, finding ways to beat ourselves eventually will catch up to us if we don't correct the mistakes.
Yeah, I know the last 2 weeks have been key district or key region wins as well. When y'all beat ECS 21-7, and then y'all beat St. George's this past week 37-0. Let's talk about those 2 games.
Well, ECS is always going to be a big game for us. It's always going to be a rival game, and it's always going to be close. Trey and his coaches do a really good job of preparing their kids. They know us probably better than anybody else knows us. We probably played them more than any other school since I've been at Lausanne over the last 9 years. Some years we've played each other twice because of the playoff situation. So there's a lot of familiarity between the staffs. There's not a whole lot of mystery going into that game about what either team's really going to try to do to win the football game. So, you always expect that thing to be one of those roll up your sleeves and you got to get down and dirty to try to find a way to get the win. Thought we gave away some possessions in that game that could have resulted in some points. A lot to do with them as well, but also it had to do with us. But defensively, we played super good to only give up 7 points in that game. And then last week against St. George's, it's one of those things when you get out of your routine and the kids are used to doing things a certain way, and you preach that as a coach too, the importance of what that routine might look like, and then all of a sudden you go from a 7 o'clock kickoff to a 7:30 to 8 to 8:30, and you're milling around and you're trying to find things for your kids to do, and it's just tough on those guys to try to stay mentally focused and mentally prepared. So we came out last week. We didn't play very good early on, and we kind of found a way to matriculate the ball down the field and put some points on the board. But once again, we played really good on defense. Obviously the weather conditions weren't very good or conducive for, putting the ball in the air and doing a lot of good things. But we had 3 drops. We dropped 2 touchdown passes. Brock threw an interception and hit right off one of our receivers' hands. So it's that those things and those points during the game that we're not just executing the way I want us to execute, and the way I think we need to execute in order to have success, moving forward in the playoffs.
What can fans know about your offense with Craig Cunningham and like you said, your quarterback?
Yeah. So Craig is, he's had 6 games. All 6 games, he's had over 100 yards rushing. He's just probably maybe 40 yards shy right now of 1,000 yards after 6 games. I mean, Craig is really playing well for us. He's a super talent, super athlete. The one thing he's done this year, he's really improved on his pass protection. Sticking his nose in and picking up linebackers on blitzes and edge pressures and things of that nature. Craig is playing really good. He's a lot like Eric Gray in the sense that he does a great job of taking care of the football. You don't see him put the ball on the ground very much. And Brock is really coming to his own. You think about Brock Glenn, our quarterback. He only played 6 games last year, and that was his first year to ever play really varsity football. And so, he's 12 games for his entire high school career. But he does a lot for us. He sets our pass protections. We run a lot of RPO things. He's reading backside linebackers, backside ends, frontside ends, all things we do in the run game too. So we put a lot on his plate. But I think Brock is playing really, really well. We just got to get more consistent in our offensive line, really, and not have busts. We're going to see. Last week in St. George, we saw 3 different defenses in one series. I mean, they jumped from a 50 to a 3 stack to a 40, and we prepared for it. And our guys just got to be able to adjust a little bit better than we did last week.
All right, and this week y'all got a road game like an hour and a half away, like we talked about before this. What can the guys how can they stay focused on that hour and a half road trip?
Well, I'm glad that we're getting the opportunity to get on a bus and travel and go play somebody and play somebody that has a pretty good football team. I think we need to do that before we get into the state playoffs and have to do it when it's kind of a loser leave town type of game. So it'll be interesting to see how we handle it. It'll be our first time to travel outside the city this year. Matter of fact, I don't think we've traveled outside of Memphis since 2019 when we played Mayfield, Kentucky. It'll be a little bit different routine for our guys. We're trying to mentally prepare them for, what we're going to see going through this week of preparation. Their wing, T-ish, midline-ish offense, and it's very, very hard to simulate and practice what they do with their speed and their execution of how they do it. So it's certainly going to be a good challenge for us, and And I've never been to South Gibson. Here's a tremendous environment to have the opportunity to play in. So our kids are looking forward to, and we are as well as coaches, to getting up there and playing in a pretty hostile road environment and, see how we handle ourselves.
Thank you again to Kevin Locastro and the Lausanne Lynx for having me come out and talk about Lausanne today. My next point is the takeaway of the week, guys. Like we talked about earlier in the last couple of weeks. Who's going to make the playoffs and who's not going to make the playoffs? Regions are from top to bottom right now, kind of shaky on who gets the home field. So let me give Briarcrest 3-0, Innsbruck 3-0, Brentwood Academy 2-1, MUS 2-2, Christmas 0-4. Central 5-0, Mufford 4-0, which is going to be a key game in 2 weeks on who gets that first seed. I'm looking forward to that matchup. Brighton 2-2 and Dyer County 2-2. Collierville 5-0, Germantown 4-1, Whitehaven 3-2, Bartlett 3-2, Houston 2-3, and White Station's 2-3 as well. And then the FACS is still tied for third right now with 2-2 record, I believe, as well, because they lost a tough one last week to Jackson Christian. So like we talked about with Mitch last week, the home playoffs could be depending on what seed people get the next 2 weeks of the high school football season. All right, guys, my surprise of the week. Well, to me, there's really no surprises. So I thought I would give some volleyball some love since there is a state tournament going on this week in the Middle Tennessee area. So Innsbruck does play Briarcrest in a crucial matchup in volleyball. Houston plays Ravenwood, and then Maryville plays Collierville. So good luck to all the local teams that are competing for a volleyball state championship this week. Now it's my time for the look ahead of this week.
John, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for Thomas Sellers.
You looking for me?
Yeah.
Okay. You're looking ahead, not you want us to look ahead?
Yeah. It's a crunch time, man. There's 2 weeks left of the regular season.
Yeah, that's true. As you can feel in the air, it's fall. It's October. That cold November season is coming. So let's look ahead. So what you got on your mind?
Let's talk about the non-region matchup this week in Christian Brothers and Central High School. Central is still undefeated.
Now, Christian Brothers, this has been a tough season for them, and they're not used to a season like this. So what better way to spoil somebody else's season and beat up on a team that is going to head off to the playoffs to get some sense of pride back? So you can't overlook, if you're Central, you can't overlook Christian Brothers. So that's going to be a tough game, and they're going to come out with a purpose and determined after taking a beat down from the rivals in the U.S.
And I think the key game in that game is going to be Dallin Hayden. If he can get over 100 yards, hopefully he'll get back on track for the the next game, which will be senior night for them.
Yeah, and if you're Mumford, you got your fingers crossed that I just hope Central get in a dog fight, and it goes to 3-4 overtimes, and then when we see them, we can take that title away from them in that last game of the season. So, but yeah, like you said, last 2 weeks, you never know.
In another key region game, we got Bartlett traveling to Collierville. Bartlett is trying to compete for that top 4 playoff spot, while Collierville is still undefeated with Coach County.
Well, Bartlett, you got more on the line, but Collierville has a lot on the line. Perfect season. They're doing things that they hadn't done in a long time out there, and everybody wants to see them make history. So they're going to play with a purpose, and they do not want to see that O and that underneath that L go away. So Bartlett's going to have to bring it. Bartlett, they got to play for their playoff hopes, so the game against Whitehaven won't be so pertinent, but Collierville has a lot to play for too. And they want to win our Power 10 championship. So.
Yeah. And then another fun region game, Brighton travels to Dyer County up Highway 51.
Now Brighton got a big win in their last home game against a solid Kingsbury team, and now they're looking to get some momentum going and to secure their playoff spot. And you want to get third. It's an unspoken rule in high school football. You want to get third because usually when you're fourth, you get to go see that number 1. Third, you get to see the number 2 and have a puncher's chance. So it's a big game for them up there.
Yeah, essentially you want to get there early because Dyer County does travel
they pack out there. Yeah,
they pack it out.
The DC Mafia, as I like to call it.
Next game we got Tipton Rosemark at FACS in the key matchup with the Crusaders. 2
young teams that have proven a lot this season, and the games they lost have been tough. Both teams, it's been a roller coaster season. Both programs are headed by young coaches that think outside the box and have, good young nucleuses. I saw Tipton Rosemark in person last week, and Tyler Bird, that punt return, that if you watch the highlights on West 10 Media, every coach is pulling their hair out, but then when he heads down the field, natural athleticism takes over. Payne Fullen, that quarterback for Tipton Rosemark, is a solid runner. Passing game has gotten better, threw a touchdown pass right before half. So, it's going to be a good matchup. And I think if you got some free time in the area, that's the game of the week I would go see, because both these teams have a lot to play for.
And then you got White Station at Germantown. Could Braden Ragland get the Spartans back on top?
Well, the Germantown, when they took that loss a couple weeks ago, it kind of shocked a lot of people, because they were looking like world beaters, and the athleticism was taking over. Coach Robinson and his crew just seemed like they can go anywhere and beat anybody. They've been humbled the last couple weeks. White Station is a young team, and when they lost that game to Central, it seemed like it took a lot of air out of it, but their team is maturing at the right time. When your best players are sophomores and juniors, you can win right now, just get in the playoffs and see what you can do, but it sets up for a great next year. So these two teams are going to be good for the years to come. But this game coming up, it's hard to call, because is Germantown still going to be down? And is White Station ready to come up? So we'll see.
It could be the game of turnovers also in that one.
Yes.
Arlington might have a down year this year, but they always, whenever you go to Houston, it's always a winnable game at Houston.
Yeah, and, because it's that area rivalry. These teams, like we call it, the SEC of our area, that Region 6A here in Memphis area. Arlington is like, they're loaded, but they seem to get everybody's best shot. And then, you look at the record, you got to throw that out the window, because they're going to be up in Houston, still have something to play for, trying to, keep their name in that mix. Losing the wrong games in that league could be detrimental to you. But if I had to pick somebody, I would pick Houston, because they have a lot to play for right now.
And then they also got more seniors on that ball team as well.
Yes.
Okay, Kingsbury at Mumford, a key game for Mumford.
Mumford needs to take care of business. Don't look ahead. They call this the trap game. If they talk to the coaches at Brighton, and I'm sure they communicate. Slade Calhoun might have put a phone call to Coach David and said, "Hey, I saw they put up some points against y'all, this and that. What I need to watch out for. Don't kick the ball to this guy. Don't kick the ball to that guy." But Mumford take care of business, establish their running game, and they got like 3 monsters back there behind that powerful offensive line. They'll do pretty well. And hey, the only losses this year, Dyersburg and Covington. That's nothing to be ashamed of.
No, definitely not. Then Pure at MUS, Pure Alliance, they got Tevin Carter at quarterback of Memphis commit. Yeah. Pure does have a good win on their season. They beat Southwind 33-0. So it could be an interesting non-region matchup for the Owls.
Well, the Owls, after picking up the big win against Christiansburg, now here's their mindset. Let's get right for the playoffs. We're going to get in. We're going to have to maybe win an extra game that we normally not used to. We might have to travel a little bit more. But, hey, we were ranked high in everybody's category across the state for a reason. Now it's time for us to validate that. Maybe getting that win against the Purple Wave was the thing that needed to right the ship for the Owls. And going against a solid athletic team like Pierre, who's seen nothing but great teams every week, they're going to be ready to pressure them to push MUS to another level.
And then Briarcrest at SBA. Could Briarcrest stay undefeated for that key matchup next week against Innsworth? Although Innsworth does have a key region game themselves against Ripley County.
So Innsworth definitely can't look ahead. Briarcrest shouldn't look ahead. I know you look at the record, St. Benedict, they're winless. Oh, we should be able to take care of this. But young team, once again, that would love to put up their first victory up against a team and ruin their perfect season. They're going to be motivated, and they're going to punch Briarcrest in the mouth when they first come out. How would Briarcrest respond to that? I think they will respond well and pick up a win. It might not be a gaudy score, but they're going to pick up the win so they can set up that matchup in the final week with Israel.
Then St. George's Griffins travels to USJ. As we talked about with Mitch last week, USJ is always a tough place to play.
Yes, and St. George's another program, young mind coach, building up his program. Yeah, you go up there and you prove something, let your young men learn something about themselves. But one of the best programs in the city of Jackson, Tennessee, USJ. Year in, year out, the Bruins are just tough. They got established. From the running game to the passing, they always seem to have a big line. So you're going up there to prove something for yourself and build for the future if you're St. George's.
And I think St. George, playing these tough teams lately, hopefully can get some points on the board in Jackson as well. And then my 2 questions for you regarding the rest of the season so far, who is kind of like your surprise team going into the playoffs that could make some noise? And then I know that's my first question for that. Okay,
my surprise team has to be the Collierville Dragons. I'll be honest with you, I thought they might sneak into the playoffs at 4 or 3 seed. But their doomsday defense that they have is they're as good as advertised. And I can see them getting that home field advantage and getting some key breaks and making a good run. Now, I get to cover the Millington Trojans every week. Their win against Ripley surprised me, I have to be honest. and gave them, a solid playoff spot. And they had the potential. They can avoid certain teams to make some noise, maybe win a game or two. And, they played Bolton tough. Bolton's also in our coverage here. I see that program going in the right direction. But, everybody's surprise team this year has to be the Collierville Dragons, if we're all honest with ourselves.
And I'm thinking, also with J.D. Sherrod at Briarcrest, the way he's coming in with the new offense when he came in from Florida this year as well. And Briarcrest is still staying undefeated the way they are with all that talent as well.
Yes.
And then the team that basically is kind of like a down year for them, that you're kind of surprised with their record. To me, it's Christian Brothers because they're 4-4 and 0-4 in the league.
Christian Brothers jumps out to me because we had them ranked pretty high in our preseason ranking. And then, they beat Germantown. So you're thinking, okay, typical brothers, they finna go on a nice little run. And then hiccups here, injuries here. That's why football, you have to line up every week. You can't just throw your jersey out there. You just can't throw your reputation out there. You have to go out there and play. And when MUS got them, that kind of solidified that, wow, okay, this is a shaky year for the brothers over there. But they'll be back. But, everybody has to go through a year like this. But definitely, I agree with you. Christian Brothers is my, surprise team that, is not where they normally should be and where they're supposed to be.
All right, Thomas, we'll see you next week.